The Black Hole, 1979, wasn't just Disney's first PG-rated film trying to compete with Star Wars.
It's called Cygnus X. We will never be able to do it in our lifetime.
It was the most expensive film Disney had ever made, where the director and producer fought constantly. The special effects team invented technology that wouldn't be used again for a decade. Test audiences hated the ending so much that Disney reshot it twice, and the original cut was over 3 hours long with a completely different tone. These are 15 facts about Disney's darkest and strangest science fiction disaster. Disney's desperate response to Star Wars cost $20 million. After Star Wars became the highest-grossing film ever in 1977, Disney executives panicked. The studio hadn't produced a major hit in years and faced potential bankruptcy. They greenlit The Black Hole with an unprecedented $20 million budget, the most expensive film in Disney history. For comparison, Disney's typical film budget was $3 to $5 million. The studio gambled everything on competing with Star Wars and Close Encounters. Disney assigned producer Ron Miller, who was Walt Disney's son-in-law, to oversee the production. Miller had minimal science fiction experience, but the family connection gave him complete authority. The board of directors approved the massive budget, believing science fiction was guaranteed profit. They were wrong. The $20 million gamble nearly destroyed Disney's film division. The studio wouldn't attempt another big-budget science fiction film for decades afterward. Director Gary Nelson and producer Ron Miller fought throughout production. Director Gary Nelson and producer Ron Miller developed intense animosity during filming. Nelson wanted a dark, serious science fiction film exploring themes of obsession and madness. Miller wanted family-friendly adventure that wouldn't traumatize children. Their creative visions were fundamentally incompatible. Nelson filmed disturbing scenes showing the Cygnus crew's fate as lobotomized cyborg slaves. Miller demanded these scenes be softened or removed. Nelson included philosophical dialogue about death and the afterlife. Miller wanted action and humor. The two men stopped speaking directly to each other halfway through production, communicating only through assistants. Cast members described the set as hostile and tense. The final film reflected this creative battle, feeling tonally inconsistent. Some scenes were genuinely dark and disturbing. Others felt like lightweight Disney adventure. The clash between visions created a confused, uneven film that satisfied nobody. The opening visual effects. Shot took 6 months to create the spectacular opening shot showing the Palomino approaching the massive Cygnus spaceship, required 6 months of work and cost over $400,000. It was the single most expensive shot in the film. Effects supervisor Peter Ellenshaw and his team built a 12-foot Cygnus model with over 3,000 working lights. The model was so large and detailed, it required its own dedicated soundstage. Filming the shot used a then revolutionary computer-controlled camera system developed specifically for this production. The system, called ACES for Automated Camera Effects System, allowed precise, repeatable camera movements impossible with traditional motion control. The technology was 10 years ahead of its time. However, ACES was so expensive and complicated that it wasn't used again until the late 1980s. The opening shot looked spectacular, but consumed enormous resources that the production couldn't afford. The budget spiraled out of control from day one. Maximilian robot costume, weighed 90 pounds and injured multiple performers. The villainous robot Maximilian was performed by 7-foot-tall bodybuilder and actor Carl Struiken inside a 90-pound costume. The Red Robot Enforcer featured spinning blade hands and required extensive mechanical operation. Struiken could only survive 20 minutes inside the costume before overheating. The limited visibility meant he frequently collided with set pieces and other actors. During the climactic fight scene with Anthony Perkins, Struiken accidentally struck Perkins with Maximilian's blade hand, causing a deep cut requiring stitches. Production shut down for 3 days while Perkins recovered. Struycken felt terrible about the accident, but the costume's design made precise control impossible. A second performer was brought in to share the physical demands. Both men suffered heat exhaustion multiple times. The stunning robot design looked incredible on screen, but created genuinely dangerous working conditions. Modern safety regulations would never allow such a hazardous costume. The film originally had a 3-hour runtime that Disney gutted. Gary Nelson delivered a director's cut running approximately 190 minutes, over 3 hours. The extended version included substantial character development, philosophical discussions about the nature of black holes and death, and much darker depictions of Dr. Reinhardt's madness. Disney executives screened the cut and declared it unwatchable for family audiences. They ordered Nelson to cut over an hour of footage. Nelson protested that removing so much material would destroy narrative coherence. Disney didn't care. The studio needed a film under 2 hours suitable for children. Nelson was forced to hack his film down to 98 minutes. Entire subplots were removed. Character motivations became unclear. The pacing felt rushed. Critics noticed the choppy editing and confusing narrative. Nelson later said the theatrical cut represented maybe half of what I intended. The deleted footage was never preserved and is presumed lost forever. Maximilian's death scene was considered too violent for PG rating. The climactic scene where Maximilian kills Anthony Perkins' character, Dr. Durant, was filmed with graphic violence. The original footage showed Maximilian spinning blades visibly cutting into Durant, with blood effects and extended suffering. Gary Nelson wanted the death to be horrifying, showing the robot's ruthless brutality. The MPAA ratings board viewed the footage and threatened an R rating if the violence remained. Disney had never released an R-rated film and absolutely refused to start. The studio ordered the scene recut with the graphic elements removed. The theatrical version shows the attack with quick cuts and reaction shots rather than explicit violence. Even the sanitized version disturbed many viewers. Parents complained that the scene traumatized their children. The controversy contributed to The Black Hole becoming Disney's first PG-rated film, rather than the traditional G rating. Ernest Borgnine and Roddy McDowall's characters were comic relief, added against directors' wishes. The characters of Harry Booth and Vincent, the robot, were added to the script by Disney executives who demanded comic relief for younger audiences. Gary Nelson had written a serious ensemble cast without comedy. Studio heads insisted the film needed humor to compete with Star Wars, C-3PO, and R2-D2. Screenwriters reluctantly created the wisecracking robot, Vincent, and the cowardly journalist Harry Booth. Ernest Borgnine was cast as Booth and hated the character. He called Booth an embarrassing stereotype and complained constantly during filming. Roddy McDowall voiced Vincent, but found the cutesy dialogue painful. The comic relief scenes felt completely disconnected from the film's dark tone. Critics savaged the tonal inconsistency. The attempted humor highlighted how Disney couldn't commit to either family entertainment or serious science fiction. The compromise satisfied nobody and damaged both approaches. John Barry's musical score was recorded with the London Symphony Orchestra. Composer John Barry was hired to create an epic orchestral score matching Star Wars' grand musical approach. Disney flew Barry to London to record with the London Symphony Orchestra at enormous expense. Barry composed a lush, romantic score emphasizing melody and orchestral color. The main theme was one of his most beautiful compositions. However, Barry's classical approach clashed with the film's dark, weird atmosphere. The soaring romantic music felt inappropriate for scenes of horror and madness. Gary Nelson wanted a more dissonant, unsettling score. Barry refused to change his approach, believing romantic themes elevated the material. The mismatch between Barry's gorgeous music and the film's disturbing content created cognitive dissonance. The score was technically brilliant, but emotionally wrong. Barry later admitted the assignment was a mistake. His talents were wasted on a film that needed experimental electronic music instead. The Hell sequence ending was reshot twice after disastrous test screenings. The original ending showed the crew entering the black hole and experiencing a surreal journey through what appeared to be literal hell. Dr. Reinhardt merged with Maximilian in a fiery wasteland filled with tortured souls. The sequence was abstract, nightmarish, and deeply religious. Test audiences found it terrifying and incomprehensible. Children cried, adults walked out confused. Disney ordered the Hell sequence reshot to be less explicit. The second version softened the religious imagery, but audiences still hated it. Disney demanded a third version that minimized the Hell imagery entirely. The final theatrical version reduced the Hell sequence to brief, ambiguous images. Even in sanitized form, the ending confused audiences who didn't understand what happened. The 3 separate shoots of the ending cost over $2 million. Gary Nelson fought to keep his vision, but lost. The compromised ending satisfied nobody and left viewers baffled. Compromised ending satisfied nobody and left viewers baffled. Yvette Mimieux refused to film certain scenes due to costume discomfort. Yvette Mimieux played Dr. Kate McCrae in a form-fitting costume that she found degrading and uncomfortable. The costume was designed to be sexy rather than functional, featuring tight fabric and impractical high heels. Mimieux complained that her costume was inappropriate for a scientist character and made movement difficult. She refused to film action sequences in the costume, demanding more practical clothing. Disney executives insisted the costume was necessary for marketing to male audiences. Mimieux and the studio reached an uncomfortable compromise where she wore the original costume for dialogue scenes, but changed into more practical clothing for physical scenes. The costume changes created continuity problems that editors struggled to hide. The film's opening overture was added without director's knowledge. Disney executives decided The Black Hole needed a theatrical overture like classic roadshow presentations. They added a 2-minute orchestral overture playing over a black screen before the film began. Gary Nelson learned about the overture when he attended the premiere. He was furious that Disney had added something without his knowledge or approval. Nelson believed the overture made the film feel old-fashioned and pretentious. The overture also increased the runtime, which Disney had previously demanded he reduce. The contradiction frustrated Nelson immensely. The overture played only in theatrical presentations and was removed from home video releases. Maximilian was designed to resemble a samurai warrior production designer, Peter Ellenshaw, based Maximilian's design on samurai armor, particularly kabuto helmets and do chest plates. The robot's red color scheme and blade weapons evoked Japanese warrior aesthetics. Ellenshaw wanted Maximilian to feel ancient and honorable, despite being a ruthless killer. The design suggested Dr. Reinhardt had programmed Maximilian with a twisted sense of loyalty and duty. The samurai influence made Maximilian visually distinct from other movie robots of that era. However, the sophisticated design philosophy was never explained in the film. Audiences simply saw a menacing red robot without understanding the cultural references. Ellenshaw later said he wished the film had explored Maximilian's programming and relationship with Reinhardt more deeply. The Cygnus crew's lobotomized fate was originally much more explicit. Gary Nelson filmed explicit scenes showing that the Cygnus crew members were lobotomized, humans turned into mindless robot servants. The original footage clearly depicted the horrifying process and showed crew members' faces beneath their masks. These scenes were graphic body horror completely inappropriate for Disney's family brand. Studio executives demanded the revelation be made more ambiguous and less disturbing. The theatrical version only hints at the crew's true nature through dialogue and brief glimpses. Most viewers missed the implication entirely. Nelson wanted audiences to be horrified by Dr. Reinhardt's crimes against his crew. Disney wanted to avoid traumatizing children. The compromise made the film's darkest element nearly invisible. The black hole effect was created, using ink dropped in water. The swirling black hole visual effect was created using an elegant practical technique. Effects artist Peter Ellenshaw filmed black ink being dropped into a tank of water and photographed the swirling patterns at high speed. The ink clouds created organic, hypnotic spiraling movements. These filmed elements were combined with rotoscoped animation and optical effects to create the final black hole imagery. The technique was simple, inexpensive, and beautiful. The black hole looked mysterious and otherworldly despite the low-tech creation method. Modern audiences assume the effect was created with complex computers or expensive apparatus. Alternate ending. Gary Nelson wrote but never filmed his intended ending for the black hole. In this version, the journey through the black hole transformed the crew into pure energy beings existing outside normal space and time. The final scenes showed them observing Earth from an impossible vantage point, realizing they could never return home or communicate with humanity. Dr. Reinhardt's fate was revealed as eternal imprisonment in the hell dimension he'd created through his obsession and cruelty. The ending posed philosophical questions about whether consciousness could survive without physical form and whether such survival was truly life. Disney rejected this ending as too depressing and weird for family audiences. The black hole could have been Disney's dark philosophical masterpiece exploring death, madness, and transcendence. Instead, it became a compromised mess that was too dark for children and too shallow for adults. The real ending was too bleak. The footage was gutted, and Disney's $20 million gamble taught them to avoid ambitious science fiction for decades.